What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer, and today I wanted to take a look at the current state of Overwatch's events and talk about what I believe we'll see moving forward. Having now entered Overwatch's third year, many players seem largely dissatisfied with the event repetition we've begun to see. However, the answer to this problem likely won't be in the form of event reboots or total reworks, nor do I think it necessarily should be. So today I want to explore not only the direction I think we'll see Blizzard take things over the next months and years, but also explain why they're aiming for this and why, if done right, it could actually be the best path for both the game and its player base. As always, if you end up enjoying this video, then I strongly recommend leaving a like and subscribing, but without further ado, let's jump right on in. So following the start of the 2018 Summer Games event, which was the first Overwatch event of its third year, the Overwatch player base was in a state of disappointment. The reason for this was the lack of new content which was added to Summer Games 2018 compared to previous years, and the return of Lucio Ball for the third year in a row without having any new game mode to complement it. We only got 6 new legendaries while the majority of events from last year had 7 or more, and even for those players who enjoy the little cosmetic items, this event marked the first in Overwatch history where every single hero didn't get at least one new voice line, which ended up meaning that a good chunk of the game's hero roster didn't get a single new cosmetic item this time around. With such a relatively small amount of new content added in the 2018 Summer Games event, a lot of people saw Blizzard as being lazy and simply not caring about the event or maybe even Overwatch as a whole. Now, the latter of these two is absurd, and I want to shut down any notion right now that Blizzard doesn't care about this game. Even if you want to see them as just a greedy, money-hungry company, Overwatch is way too big of a cash cow currently for Blizzard to not care about it. However, the Summer Games itself, and perhaps events as a whole, could be a different story. I believe that Blizzard's intent with events is to bring them into a state of repetition. They want to be able to give us nearly the exact same thing every single year with only a few additions added, and for a couple of good reasons. Reason 1, new players. Overwatch is a successful ongoing game. New players are joining every single day. Despite how much people like to throw around the Overwatch is dying fallacy, that's simply not true. The game might not be growing in terms of concurrent players, but new people are always joining. Some will become longtime fans, others might quit within a month or two. But either way, when a new player joins, everything is new to them, including the content of any event when they play it for the first time. While us veterans may have now played Lucio Ball for 3 years in a row, these newer players are experiencing it for the very first time ever. And what about the cosmetic content? Veterans may be disappointed to get only 6 new legendary skins this time around, but the newcomers have 19 new event legendary skins to get, in addition to the now hundreds of smaller cosmetics. Additionally, veteran players may be less likely to buy loot boxes than these new players. As a veteran myself who regularly plays the game, I have more than enough credits earned through duplicates to buy any cosmetics I want during any event. Even without the boxes I buy simply to make loot box opening videos, I accumulate enough in-game money to buy anything I actually want, especially if I'm willing to pass on some things which I personally don't care to get. New players, however, don't have these accumulated credits, and thus may be more likely to spend real money on boxes in an effort to get the items they want, which veteran players already have from past years. As a company who is focused on profits, why would Blizzard keep spending excessive development time on making tons of new cosmetic content when the old cosmetics continue to make them money, especially when faced with the inevitability that I see as the second major reason they're toning back on events, which is that new cosmetics are finite. What this means is that within Overwatch, there are only a set number of skins which could be made for any given hero. While this may not be surprising to consider, I believe the realistic number of potential skins for any hero is much smaller than you may think. Considering the quality of detail of every hero's skins, from the necessity to match their hero silhouette to the relevancy of the character's personality and abilities, the number of new skin ideas going forward which would appropriately fit any given character without being too similar to their already existing skins, or defying their character and personality traits, might not be that big. While I don't believe we'll ever see a point where Blizzard actually exhausts all new skin potential for any given hero, it's certainly something that must at the very least be considered, especially if they hope to make the game successfully ongoing for years to come. And this is why I think we will start to see a toning back of the amount of cosmetics added with each upcoming event. Even the small items, such as sprays and voice lines, at some point will become so numerous that there won't be anything that actually feels new. As long as Blizzard continues to make sufficient profits off the skins they've already developed, why should they continue wasting development time on more stuff that'll only become increasingly more superfluous? When Blizzard said over a year ago now that their goal for year 2 was to refine the events from year 1, I think their ultimate goal for beyond that was to establish them as fun, seasonal experiences that were good enough on their own for players to enjoy and look forward to each year without expecting them to be tremendously different. And to this extent, unfortunately, I do think they've failed, especially regarding the game modes. In my opinion, the only event game mode which I think is good enough that I would be satisfied with it merely returning every year is Junkenstein's Revenge. But even that could stand to be improved in a number of ways. If Blizzard does want to ultimately end up with 6 events that don't need to fundamentally change every time around, they need to do better than what we have now for the game modes. I don't think getting a brand new mode with each event iteration is necessary or even feasible, as it falls into a similar sort of finite rut as the cosmetics when it comes to possible modes that would actually be enjoyable to play. But Blizzard is going to have to expand on what we have now if they want us to be satisfied with it merely returning every year. Additionally, I think they may also have shot themselves in the foot regarding the standard for event cosmetics. While I understand why they went full force with the cosmetics in their first 2 years in order to secure an invested player base and establish a substantially sized loot pool, I think they may have set the bar a bit too high. 7 to 8 new legendaries per event may have been a bit much, and to be honest, I think 5 or 6 would be just fine instead, especially if we get a couple dope epic skins alongside them. But having grown accustomed to events which introduce loads of new cosmetics, having them toned back will of course generate some disappointment. I fully believe going forward that we will still always get at least some new stuff with each event iteration, as having something new to show is a great way to bring in new and old players alike, but I don't expect us to regularly get the same mass quantity of cosmetics like we saw in year 2. Now, as the players, many of whom fit within the veteran category, all of this may sound kinda despairing to us. It seems like Blizzard could be neglecting what we want simply to make the most profits. But again, I don't think this is necessarily the case. By shifting development time away from the creation of loads of more conventional event content, it gives Blizzard the opportunity to focus on other things, many of which we may find even more enjoyable than the events we have currently. For example, we could begin to see more and better spontaneous mini-events, like the Nano Cola Challenge or the BCRF charity event. Also, the fewer cosmetic items we do get with each standard event iteration can have more time and effort put into them individually, now that the game already has a large catalog of content for players to enjoy. Rather than going for sheer numbers, Overwatch can try to focus on quality over quantity. Granted, there is no guarantee that Blizzard will do any of this, and perhaps they will just end up sitting back and basking in their immense loot box revenue. But assuming that the developers do in fact care about the game itself, or at least the potential future profits which could be made on top of what they make now, I think we'll end up seeing newer, hopefully better content aside from the conventional events. These old events will never truly go away. As I said, with new players coming in all the time, why would they ever discontinue huge chunks of content that they've already invested time in developing, which players will continue to spend money on? Even if they gave the current Overwatch events massive overhauls, I think we will find ourselves being relatively unsatisfied. Without removing the old events, all they can do is pile more on top of the old, and even this will grow tiresome after a while. If we do in fact start to see more surprise mini-events, this would be a great way to keep the community on our toes. We already know what to expect from events when they come around for the most part regarding themes and game modes. Fresh forms of adding new content, even in small amounts, I think will be better than having predictable themed cosmetic content dumps 6 times a year. And to be honest, of all the things for Blizzard to scale back on, events are the one thing I'm the most okay with. As a whole, events could really just be classified as cosmetic additions. While they introduce their own game modes, some of which do stick around past the end of the event itself, nothing about events affect the core modes of quick play and competitive beyond just the cosmetics people use while playing them. So, especially if they begin to supplement them with mini events or other new new, unexpected forms of adding cosmetics, I'm really not worried about events taking somewhat of a back seat. Now, if we start seeing Blizzard neglect to compensate for the scaling back of events as time goes on, or they begin to slack off on new maps and heroes, that is when we can start to really be concerned. I, for one, welcome whatever new direction we may end up seeing for the game's cosmetic contents, and hopefully now that I've explained what Blizzard is aiming for with events moving forward, you too can feel a little bit better about how the game is changing. There's a lot of room for it to improve, and I'm optimistic that we will see it happen. But be sure to leave your own thoughts regarding the current state of Overwatch events and what you expect to see moving forward down in the comments below. Do you think Blizzard should focus more on surprise mini-events, or would you prefer they continue with just these 6 main yearly ones? Either way, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video and share it with a friend if you really liked it. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and turn on notifications to both help out my channel and keep up with all my future Overwatch content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.